The Tarrant Baptist Church, as we know it today, wasn't always this grand. Let's take a trip down memory lane. 125 years ago in the 1890s, TBC, as an independent Baptist church, started out as the vision of a group of worshippers from the Hanover Street Baptist Church who introduced Baptist witness to the district of Tarrant. From this small group, John and Alvera Phipps, who started the very first Tarrant Baptist Church, was formally established in 1915, about the time the Jamaica Baptist acquired the site. Under the leadership of Reverend Price, students of Calabar College through Tarrant serve the community, organized street meetings, and conduct worship services. Reverend David Davis, along with Reverend Ernest Price, secured a loan from the Baptist Ministry Society, London, to build a new chapel when the first was no longer usable. The wife of Reverend Corey Lloyd, pastor of East Queen Street, broke ground in 1926. And just like that, Tarrant had manifested from the minds of a few men and women of God from the East Queen Street Baptist to the little church on the hill. Problem days ahead. After the church faced some troubling times in the 1930s, the Reverend J.T. Dillon sought to give them stability and financial freedom. It was he who encouraged the church to become a member of the Jamaica Baptist Union. Another setback came when the church was damaged by Hurricane Charles, which struck the island in 1951. Repairs weren't completed until 1953. By 1953, Tarrant had a membership of 50 and decided to break long ties. He who encouraged the church to become a member of the Jamaica Baptist Union. Another setback came when the church was damaged by Hurricane Charles, which struck the island in 1951. Repairs weren't completed until 1953. By 1953, Tarrant had a membership of 50 and decided to break long ties with Hanover Street Baptist Church. Being a circuit of 4 churches worked to the detriment of Tarrant as the church was not properly serviced. Then later down the line, the circuit relationship between Tarrant and Jonestown broke in 1968 when Reverend C.S. Reed, 1967 to 1988, succeeded the Reverend Mr. Sawyers. The Phipps continued hosting meetings up to 1899 until the purchase of the property at 51 Moulins Road. That little church on the hill lasted until 1971. Under the leadership of Reverend C.S. Reed, the site was cleared for another building when Reverend William Edwards, 1969 to 1988, took over the pastorate. The basement and education center of the present building was built. These were dedicated January 31, 1971. This chapel was completed after a delay of 1 year, built in 18 months, and dedicated May 27, 1974. The church was blessed with a deacon who was a builder in the person of Mr. Gershom Heron. It was with his help that the old chapel was pulled down and the new erected. The materials taken were still good enough, and the sacking boards from the roof were used to build the platform on the ground floor. Zinc sheets from the roof were cut to make fencing against the gully at the back of the building. The new building was designed by Mr. Clarence Edwards, nephew of Mr. Reverend W.A. Edwards. The wrought iron works were designed by Mr. Lenore Jackson. This chapel now had an indoor baptistry. Earlier candidates were baptized at Hanover Street and Jonestown, an inconvenience which prompted the construction of the indoor pool. A huge stone now stands as a mountain to indicate the position of that pool. In 1975, because the need for more space, additions were made atop the kitchen. This was for housing a library and a pastor's lounge and included toilet facilities. However, for the sake of expediency, these were converted into a caretaker's residence and a church office. The Tarrant Church formed a very active outreach ministry in the Marley community. Balmaji originated as a mission in 1958 as a result of a Billy Graham crusade. Balmaji was accepted into the JBU in 1987 and formed the Tarrant Balmaji circuit. It continues to strive and grow under God. The Youth Fellowship was responsible for encouraging youths between the ages of 13 and 30 to be more actively involved in ministry. They provided a forum of discussing the current issues. Weekly meetings were led by the executive committee to cover activities for spiritual development. Members of the YF were appointed deacons and 6 members called to pastoral ministry later on in their Christian walk. The Youth Fellowship was also a cradle for the Youth Choral, which eventually integrated to form the Youth Fellowship Choral 70s and 80s. The Youth Fellowship to this day continues to be active in church with dance, musical productions, and an original radio program, Pure Grace, which airs on TBC Radio. In a bold step of faith by the Tarrant Baptist Church, on April 12, 1998, Easter Sunday, they became the first to have a radio station. TBC Radio started out as a dream of our then pastor, the Reverend Dr. Neville Gallum. What was initially a community radio station, created to minister to the elderly and homebound, has grown tremendously, and the breath of change, now through hard work, prayer, and the grace of God, operates 24 hours daily to a wider community and the young and elderly alike. The Tarrant Baptist Church has had a hard road to travel, and we have come a mighty long way from our days on the Phipps veranda. But under God, we continue to grow and impact the nation through the airways, missions, and service to the community.